Well, good evening. We welcome you to In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman.
Good evening.
And we are so excited to be with you guys on this evening. I tell you, it's just been a phenomenal day, a day of progress, a day of increase and promotion. And so we're excited to be sharing with you guys. We thank you all for tuning in. Hey, Robert, how you doing there? We thank you all for tuning in. I tell you, you're going to be in for a treat tonight. We've been talking about Before the Storm. And we've come from a book that our pastor, Apostle Michael A. Freeman, wrote, Before the Storm, Pre-Storm Strategies. And so we want to encourage you guys to go to Amazon. You want to order this book. Not only this book, but it's a part of a trilogy, Before the Storm, During the Storm, and After the Storm. And so again, we want to encourage you guys to get that. But we've been talking about Before the Storm. What we realize is that there are so many people that are going through. And I'm talking about different challenges, physically, mentally, financially, emotionally, in the blended family, and don't know how to overcome, don't know how to press their way on out. And so we want to just share some strategies that we've learned through this great, awesome read that will take your family and your life and your dynamic to that next level, that next dimension. And so before they do that, sweetheart, how can they reach us?
We are a blended family at gmail.com or via website intheblendedministries.com.
So give that to them one more time.
We are a blended family at gmail.com or intheblendedministries.com.
And so we want to encourage you guys, listen, if you've missed the last 4 episodes of this, you want to go to our In the Blender Facebook page, or you can go to our individual pages and you can view them as well. Not
or
only
YouTube.
that, or YouTube. And so you want to make sure that you're up to speed with what we've been sharing, because I'm telling you, it's been insightful, enlightening, and impactful. And you want to make sure that you have this in your arsenal, because it's appointed to everybody to go through something. There's the storms that have been appointed to each and every one of our lives. And if you don't have strategies before the storm, it's going to be hard during the storm. And then it's going to be extra hard after the storm, because there's some things that's going to get out of place, some things that's going to get moved around if you don't have a strategy for how to handle that storm when it comes into your life. And so we've talked about some of the strategies. A couple things. We're going to just give a brief recap of the last couple of episodes, and then we're going to move right into, I think, our final point, our final 2 points. And so we're going to go right there. But if there will be, in life, there will be storms. So listen to this. In life, there will be storms. But if you are prepared before the storm, and listen to this, if you are prepared before the storm, the strong winds and the roaring thunder will not cause you to be fearful and anxious. And so we talked about that on the first episode, because there's so many people we found out that are fearful and anxious. They're going through some things have attacked their home and have attacked their families, especially as it relates to this blended family. And now they're fearful. Now they're anxious because they don't know how to come out. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to prepare themselves. They don't know how to fight. And so if you don't already prepare yourself before this storm, 9 times out of 10, you will be fearful. You will be anxious. One of the things that have assisted us in the many storms that we've gone through, especially in this blended family dynamic, was our ability to be prepared. Now, there are times when you're not as prepared as you need to be, or even as prepared as you should be. But even making some type of preparation will assist you in overcoming. Let me say that again. Even some type of preparation will assist you in overcoming. But we don't want you to just have some type of preparation. We want you to have the maximum preparation. There's nothing like being prepared when you know there's a storm coming, or even when you don't know there's a storm coming. One of the things that we did is we purchased umbrellas for the vehicles. We know that one day we're out, there's going to be some rain. One day we're out, there's going to be a storm that we're going to encounter. But the mere fact that we have umbrellas in the car waiting for that particular storm to come, it gives us an assurance that what could happen most likely won't happen. What do you mean? That storm that's been designed to drench you, to get you wet, to get you off focus, to get you out of place, because you have the proper apparatus in place, you've already prepared yourself, and therefore when that storm comes, you can walk right through it. There's nothing like knowing that we're out and it's sunny. All of a sudden we come back out and it's raining, and we can pop that trunk and pull out those umbrellas and know that we'll be dry. There's nothing like knowing that when that storm comes, you've already prepared. You fasted, you prayed, you've consecrated yourself, you put up finances, you've grown stronger in your relationship. You know each other you know that you have each other's back. You know that your children have your back and you have your children's back. You know that there's no division in the family. There's nothing like that preparation, having those umbrellas already in the trunk. So when that storm comes, all you got to do is pull them out and walk in dry. And so we want to share these things with you. After the storm hits, it's too late to prepare in most instances. After that storm hit, it's too late. You ever find yourself in a position where it's raining and you trying to run in the store to buy an umbrella? I'm pretty sure many of us been in that position. I know I've been in that position where it's raining. And the crazy thing about it is, by the time you get an umbrella, you've already been drenched.
Wet.
You're already wet. And that's what we're finding out that's happening, sweetheart, in this blended family dynamic, is that because there's no umbrella set aside, because there's no strategies, no preparation for the storm, you're already wet before you can get the essentials needed to keep you dry. Now you're frustrated, you cold, you wet, you drenched, you feel like you just don't want to be bothered. All these different emotions, all these different things are now coming out. Why? Because you haven't made the proper preparation before that storm hit. Many get in trouble because they were not listening or paying attention. Instead of preparing ahead of time and fixing what could be broken, many of us ignore the cracks, and when a storm comes, it causes a catastrophic damage that in most instances could have been diverted. But because we don't listen, or because we haven't listened, when that storm comes, now it's what could have been diverted. That's the word I'm looking for. What could have been diverted can now be catastrophic. A great instance, I remember a few times my wife told me don't take a job. Yes, sir, we got to discern that forecast. Pastor, you're going to remember one of these. My wife told me don't take a job. I was in North Carolina. And my wife said, don't take this job. And I took that job anyway. And man, it was catastrophic. It could have been diverted if I would have listened to the forecast. Because she already told me, listen, I don't think this thing going to be like you think it's going to be. And you've already seen the signs that the storm is coming. But sometimes we try to, it's like I was listening to the radio today, and they were talking about it's supposed to snow Thursday. And the guy on the radio said, listen, I'll believe it when it happens. Mm-hmm. And many of us, we take that same approach to life. We believe that storm when it happens. But guess what? When it's happening, it ain't no time to believe it because you already know it's there. How you going to believe something that you already, you don't believe it, you know it. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it's too late to do something about it because you haven't heeded to the forecast. What was catastrophic could have been diverted if you would have only listened. There were some things that if I would have only listened ahead of time, when my forecaster was telling me, don't do it. I don't think that's a good idea. I think we need to wait. I think you need to do this. I think you need to do that. When my weather woman was telling me that this wasn't going to come out sunny like you think it's going to come out, and instead of me saying, I'll believe it when I see it, or I'll wait till it happens, then now I'm dealing with some catastrophe in our relationship, all because I wouldn't listen and I ignored that forecast.
I feel you 1,000%.
Yes, sir. 1,000%. Anything that is not in order is out of order. Let me say that again. Anything that is not in order is out of order. But what's more important than that is God not obligated to assist you in it. Not saying that he won't, but he's not obligated. Because he's already given you an order. He's already given you and me an order whereby we should live and walk out this life. But because we choose to do things on our own terms, we choose to do life on our own terms, now we want to hold him responsible for our actions. Mm-hmm. You ever hear somebody fussing and cussing at God? Why you let this happen? No, why'd you make that decision? Why'd you make that choice? Why didn't you prepare properly? Why didn't you prepare properly like you should have prepared so that you wouldn't even have to go through that? But now you want to fuss at God. You want to blame him for your choices, your decisions. Why you let me marry him? Why you were so hot? Why you ain't want to listen? Why you let me make that bad business decision? Why you didn't look at the signs? Why you didn't look at the history of the person that you joined up with? Why you let my kids get in this trouble? Well, why you didn't teach your children right and wrong? Why you didn't correct them when you knew they were doing the wrong thing? Why didn't you make a proper stance even if that meant the relationship not being as sweet as you wanted it to be? Because at the end of the day, as they mature and as they grow, they're going to understand and appreciate the mere fact that you told them that was wrong. You don't know how many times our children have come to us and they said, I wish I would have listened. You was right. Not only them, but how many times we've gone to our parents. I know I've gone to my parents many a times and said, hey, you was right. I should have listened. And so those things are important. Unlike the emergency broadcast system that sends out a loud annoying sound warning that always disturbs whatever show we're watching, unlike that, you might don't get a warning when the storm is coming. And see, a lot of times we think we're going to get a warning before that storm comes. Sometimes you don't get a warning. You ever be out and about and it's just sunny? I mean, even the forecasters are saying how beautiful that day is going to be. And lo and behold, a quick storm comes through. And you asking yourself, like, where did that come from? Like, didn't anybody see that coming? Well, guess what? There are times in life, guys, where storms come and there is no warning. There is no signs that's going to let you know that this is coming. There's no loud noises that's going to alert you to say, look out, be prepared. Sometimes storms are going to come in the conditions, the situations, the relationships are going to be so great. And next thing you know, there's a storm. I remember about 2 years ago, I had this dream. And in the dream, it dealt with one of my parents. Well, I called my parents and I called them. I said, hey, you guys okay? You cool? Everything's good? And so my mom was like, yeah, everything's good. You know, everything's well. And so I asked her again. I said, you sure everything's good? So the third time I asked her, she kind of knew where I was going with that question, that line of questioning. And she said, yeah, I just went to the doctor and I had my checkups and everything's wonderful. I'm doing great. All my levels are perfect and where they should be. You know, I always can get a little better, but I'm fine. So then I said, what she know when I say this, where I'm going, I say, so how's your husband? And I'll talk about my father. And I said, so how's your husband? And so she yelled back in the house, hey, your son said, how's everything? And so my dad was like, you know, everything's well, everything's good. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, maybe I missed something in that dream. Maybe I missed the interpretation of it. And so this was around April. Well, the end of August, I got a phone call. They rushed my dad to the hospital. He wasn't doing well. Well, when they rushed him to the hospital, they found out that he was he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And the doctors told him, you know what, you might as well just go home and there's nothing that we can do for you. Well, that's a storm. That's a storm. Because guess what? Nobody saw that coming. That was a storm that had no warnings. All of a sudden, only thing they knew was a week prior to them taking him to the doctors, he stopped eating. He couldn't hold anything down. But nobody ever thought that the diagnosis was going to be what it was. So anyway, this was like, again, I think late August, early September. I want to say late August. And so I said, well, you know, I got the phone call. Hey, we just rushed your dad to the hospital. And this is what the doctor's saying. And so I said, okay. And I hung up. And I went on with life just as it was. I mean, every single day I was doing life. And so about the end of the year, God said, okay, you need to go see your dad. He may think you're not really as concerned as you really, as you could be, but you just need to go see him for his sake. So I go up to see him. He has no idea I'm coming. And when we get there, he's in dialysis. So we go in there, and I've already prayed. Now I'm just laying hands on stuff. Nobody know what I'm doing. I'm just touching everything in the room. And so at that particular time, he's sharing his faith concerning me with the doctors. And so they're surprised to see me. I walk in. And to make a long story short, we leave. So when we leave, 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. All his numbers were back on point. The doctors took him off of dialysis. I mean, the guy's just been living life. He's been to Mexico twice. I mean, he's just been doing it. You know what I'm saying? But that was a storm. That was a storm that we weren't prepared for. But because because I already got the warning. And let me say this. There are times, guys, when a warning comes, you may not be the one to get the warning, but you got to have an ear to hear when someone comes to you with that warning. Because I got it. I got the sound. I saw it. But because they didn't see it and no one else was aware of it, life went on as they were used to it. And then when the storm hit, but let me say this, but because they were already prepared in their faith. Let me say this, because if you're prepared in your faith, regardless if you're aware of that storm or not, you can overcome it. And because they were prepared in their faith, they were able to overcome. So listen, guys, real quick, and then we're going to move into these last 2 points. Essentials needed before the storm. Prepare with prayer. It's important that you prepare with prayer. Declare victory. You have to declare victory over your life. You have to declare victory over your family. You have to declare victory even over your marriage. You already given another opportunity to be a success at this thing. I don't care what that person has done. If we wouldn't have declared the victory over our relationship, we wouldn't be sharing with you guys right now. Just based upon my dumb days. Just based upon my dumb decisions, my unwise counsel, my not listening to wise counsel. Just based upon me alone, we wouldn't have made it. But even through it all, we always declared the victory. We've always declared we're overcoming. We always declared we were on top. Even when we were at the very bottom, we were still declaring and decreeing that we were on top, that our family was blessed. Even when our family was torn apart because of me. Let me tell you something, guys. I was making a mess of some things. I mean, a stone cold fool as related to the family. But my heart was pure. My desires were right. Didn't have a bunch of wisdom. Didn't have a bunch of understanding, a bunch of knowledge. But I knew my heart was right. And because my heart was right, it was easy for me to now receive and make the necessary adjustments to get my family where I wanted it to be. But you got to declare the victory. You got to develop a spirit of faith. You got to develop the spirit of faith. We all have been given the measure of faith, but there's a spirit that's attached with that measure that you got to develop. You got to build that thing up. It's just like we all born with muscles. And I would, because my wife, she got some guns over here, but I ain't gonna tell her to show them to y'all. Mm-hmm. She's talking about, I'm not. Every picture she takes, she's trying to flex them things. Yep. You know what I'm saying? But we all were born with muscles. But if you don't develop those muscles, if you haven't been developing them muscles, then when it's time to show them, there's nothing there. You ever been in a situation where you got to lift something, and because you haven't been working them muscles out, you can't lift it, and it's not even a heavy weight. Like a lot of times I do moving, and I'm lifting things, and I encounter people that have heavy property, and they say, "Be careful, that's heavy." Well, guess what? If you lifting it, I should be able to lift it. And that's my saying to them. If you're lifting it, I should be able to lift it. Because I should be already prepared to handle what it is I'm lifting. And so you want to make sure that you develop that faith. You develop the spirit of faith. So when that time comes, just like I had that peace when I got that call about my dad, that's the kind of peace you should have about whatever storm you're going through. Because my declaration was the same thing he said. He decreed that he was good. I decreed that he was good. My wife will tell you. She said, "How your dad doing?" "Oh, he good." I hadn't even talked with him. I hadn't even heard his voice. But because I stood on what he said, that's all that mattered to me. And now we're walking in that victory because of the words that he decreed and the words that I stood on. You win with the word. Matthew 4:4 says, "Man should not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God." You're going to have to know what God says about your circumstances. You're going to have to know what God says about your situation. He already said you win. You're the head and not the tail. Above only and never beneath. You're the lender and not the borrower. You're a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. You're heirs and joint heirs of righteousness. You are the redeemed of the Lord. You're everything that he said you are. And when you know that, guess what? You can stand on that. When that financial storm comes, you can say, "I'm the lender, not the borrower." Now, you may want to borrow, and you may have tried to borrow, but you still keep decreeing that you're the lender, not the borrower. Sooner or later, your life is going to catch up with those words. Let me say that again. Sooner or later, your life will catch up with those words. I know many of you guys have ceiling fans in your houses because that's one of the modern attractions of houses, ceiling fans. Well, guess what? When you first hit that switch on that ceiling fan, when it's spinning clockwise and you need it now to go counterclockwise, when you hit that switch, guess what doesn't happen? It doesn't stop going clockwise. It continues to go clockwise. The same way it is with that word. Just because you decree it doesn't mean it's going to automatically, instantaneously change up. Many people get disappointed and discouraged because when you're trying to win with the word, you're not seeing immediate results. You're not seeing right now results. And so now you're giving up and you're throwing in a towel when all you got to do is wait for the manifestation of what you said was going to happen. Just like that ceiling fan, when you hit that switch, just because it's continual going the same way doesn't mean it didn't receive that command. There's a command that's in that switch that told that fan, you need to stop and now go the other way. And if you pay real close attention to it, while that thing is spinning, it'll start slowing down. It'll start slowing down. Sooner or later, it'll stop. Then it'll flip the other way. And then it start building momentum, and then it'll do exactly what you commanded to do. Well, the same way it is with your word. Life may be going one way, but if you flip that switch, if you continue to speak that word, guess what? The command has gone forth. The guts on the inside, the brain of that device has already received that command, and now it's going to begin to slow down. Once it slows down, it's going to come to a stop. And then it's going to start going the opposite direction that you really wanted to go. But you got to have enough patience to wait for that command to manifest itself. The same way it is with that fan. You don't get mad at the fan because you hit the switch and the fan's still going the same direction, because you walk away knowing, guess what? It's going to do what it's designed to do. Well, why can't you have that same tenacity and that same faith with your words? Why can't you have that same belief in what you're decreeing, that I can walk away from this situation knowing that what I've said is going to happen? There's some manifested things that we're walking in right now that when we first said it, we couldn't see it. And it didn't appear that fan heard what we were saying. I mean, that thing was spinning fast in the opposite direction. But sooner or later, it caught. The guts caught up with the brains of the matter, and it stopped. And then it switched around and it started flowing where we needed to go. Seed time and harvest. You better believe it, Pastor. Seed time and harvest. You plant that seed. My pastor always says this. Something happens, time passes, and something happens. Seed, time, and harvest. Something happens, time passes, and something happens. You decree the word, time passes, and change manifests. You decree the word, time passes, and change manifests. You decree the word, time passes, and change manifests. But you got to understand that just because you decree the word, that doesn't mean instantaneously change is going to happen. There's a middle point to that. It's called time. Mm-hmm. Because there's some things in time that have to manifest before you see the results. Mm-hmm. There's some things in time that has to manifest before you see the results. And that time could be a matter of seconds or a matter of years. But either way it is, whether it's seconds or years, it's still time. Yep. And you better cool believe in the midst of that time, however long or short it may be, there's something that's happening. Readjust your thought life. There's a way that seems right to a man, but at the end are the ways of death. There's a way that seems right. That's why you got to readjust your thought life. Because there's a way that seems right. Just because it seems right doesn't make it right. And just because you don't think it's done, that don't mean it ain't done. You just don't think it's done. But that don't mean that it isn't done. Just because it's your thought, that doesn't mean anything. It's still done. And so understanding that and receiving that the thought was done, not you, but the thought itself was done. The action was done. The response was done. Now understanding that and understand that you're not done because you did it, because a lot of people can't separate the two. But understand that you got to readjust that thought life, because there's some dumb thoughts that we've been having or that we're having that's prohibiting us from being prepared for this storm. And now this last point, and we're going to get ready to close. Fail not to forgive. This is the most important one, guys. Fail not to forgive.
You forgot one. Perfect the love walk. We talked about that?
We talked about that last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they can get that in on the last episode. But I want to get this last one because we're almost out of time. Fail not to forgive. Many times people who fail to forgive take their anger out on their family members or those that are closest to them. Forgiveness is the key. Listen to this. Forgiveness is the key to everything that faith functions on. Today is the moment that you're called to forgive. It's time to forgive, guys. There are some things that I needed forgiveness for, and I needed to forgive. Because even in everything that we share, I wasn't the only culprit. I wasn't the only one that did some things. But I knew that I had to forgive because everything that I was desiring upon, everything that I was believing, everything that I was trusting in, I knew that I was holding it up if I didn't forgive. And I had to go to each and every one of my family members and say, forgive me. I had to go to each and every one of them and ask for their forgiveness and ask for them to pardon my sins and my transgressions. And let me tell you something. It wasn't a hard thing to do. You know what makes it hard? What makes it hard is you not wanting better more than you want what you're getting. I wanted better, man. I wanted my family to be on top. I wanted my marriage to be on top. I wanted my children to be on top. And because I made that decision, my family began to catapult. My children are successful. They're prospering in their life. But it took me to make a choice. Hey, Robert, stop flirting with my wife, man. It took me to make that choice. It took me to make that decision. Because I didn't want to miss out on all that I desired. I didn't want to miss out on things. It didn't matter what we went through. It didn't matter what we had to encounter. What mattered to me was success. What mattered to me was having that picture that I saw years ago manifest in my life. And because of that, guys, now I can say I have exactly what I've been believing for and what I've seen. So fail not to forgive, because today is the moment that you're called to do it. We love you guys. We thank you. This is the end of that episode.
Actually, that doing before the storm, right?
Yes.
That closes out.
That closes out before the storm. Next week, we got a surprise for you guys. You don't want to miss next week. We're not even going to give you a hint of what's going to happen, but I tell you what, you don't want to miss it. Listen, how can they reach us, sweetheart, if they have any comments or questions that they want to ask?
Via email at weareablendedfamily@gmail.com.
Again.
We are a blended family at gmail.com.
Also, what's in store for this week? We'll be live on Thursday.
Thursday, 8 to 9 on WJMS. Well, we're not live. It's replays of our Facebook episodes.
Yes. And so we'll have replays. Not going to be this episode, but it's going to be a replay of previous episodes that we've shared on WJMS. And that's
Thursdays, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah, but the
Live 365.
Live.365. Live.365. That's how you get us on the World Wide Web. And I tell you, don't want to miss it. It's going to be awesome. I think we're like the #1 show. And so
I don't know.
Well, that's what I said. We didn't know show. But we up there though. We're making some moves, and so we're just thankful for that door opening for us. We love you guys. We thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, Robert, Pastor Bell, Kana, all those that tuned in.
Yes, sir.
Love y'all.
Pastor Bell, we need to get you up here, man. We need to get this going. And so again, we love you guys. Let us know when you can make it, sir, and we'll have you on. We love you guys. We thank you for tuning in. And until next time, bye-bye.
Bye, guys.